Welcome to another great show of Awakening Within. I'm your host, Jill McPherson. Have you ever wondered why your pets act the way they do? Have you ever wondered what they may be trying to tell you? Well, wonder no more. Today, my guest, Claudia Hehr, is here. She is an animal communication expert. Claudia Hehr is truly the voice of the animals. For over 20 years, she has been helping clients all around the world by finding out what their animal companions need by using her ability to communicate with animals telepathically. Her work is recognized worldwide. She has appeared on numerous television shows, including the Discovery Channel, and has been profiled on international radio broadcasts in newspapers and magazines. Claudia has also been the feature expert at many events and is the author of several books, one of which is entitled, If Only Animals Could Talk. Please welcome with me my guest today, Claudia Hehr.
Hi, Jill.
Hey. So, I find this topic fascinating. I feel like many of us don't really know or understand much about it. So let's just get right into it. How is it that you can communicate with animals?
You know, it's really interesting because a lot of people think animals can't talk. We can't communicate with animals because they're focusing so much on the verbal way of communication. But if you think about it, there's so many different ways how we communicate. I mean, people have a cell phone, they text, they email. That's a way of communication. Body language is a way of communication. So just because animals don't speak our language doesn't mean that they can't communicate. So again, there's different ways we can communicate with each other through body language, verbally, where we tell our animal companions what we want them to do. However, I call them all one-way streets because we don't get anything back. We can tell them what we want, but we don't get anything back. However, there is one way where we can actually have a conversation with animals with questions and answers, and that is through telepathy.
Okay.
And that is how I communicate with animals. I communicate with them through telepathy and then translate into words for people to hear what the animals have to say.
Right. So how does that, tell us what that experience is like for you. So you're not necessarily hearing language the way you and I are hearing each other's language. We're speaking in English. I'm hearing
Right.
you speak words. I'm interpreting those words. So what do you hear?
It's very interesting because the longer you do, telepathy doesn't only has one channel, it has different channels. And the longer you do it, the more of those channels open. So you could get a feeling, you could get a sensation in your body, you can feel an emotion, you might get a picture, you might just know, or you might even hear words. So there's not just one way. And again, I've been doing it for so long that I get it through so many different ways. Interesting is if you feel it in your own body. I can tell you a really funny story. One time I was talking to a dog, and his guardian asked me, why does he always eat poopsicles? And what she meant was, it was the winter time, and he ate frozen, dog droppings, so to speak. She called them poopsicles. And so when I asked this beautiful dog, why do you eat them? I got this really weird, horrible taste in my mouth. So he wanted to show me what it tastes like. I didn't like the taste, so I said to him, can you please tell me in a different way, because it was really gross for me. And he said, oh, I love it. It tastes good. So he wanted me to experience that, right? So it's many different ways. Or I've spoken to animals, they had health issues, and all of a sudden I felt them in my body, like I could get a headache, or I'm short of breath or something. So you can feel it in your body.
Right.
And so again, there are many different ways.
So it just really goes to show how connected we truly are.
Yes.
If we see ourselves as sort of separate, completely physical, separate beings, then it would be harder to grasp this concept.
Yes.
But you're having almost like an energetic connection.
Yes. With
an animal, because you're experiencing often what they're experiencing.
But the interesting thing is, when I have a session or conversation, with somebody in the animal companion, and I tell them what the animal says, so many times people say, you know what, I thought that was going on. I wondered, because they're getting the information, but they don't know how to hear it. So that's the thing. And also, I think a big problem is that when you see children, they're so open to animals, right? I mean, we plaster the walls with teddy bears and pictures of all kinds of animals. And then they get older, and then what we've been taught comes in, that, animals don't have feelings, animals, they can't rationalize, animals they have a basic instinct, they're just there, you know what I mean? And then kind of children, because they believe in what the adults are saying, they kind of push it away, till that connection somehow breaks. And then they see an animal as a different thing.
Right.
You know, it's not even, but it's not, you know, we are all souls in a physical body that we have chosen for this lifetime.
Right. I think maybe sometimes we have to almost put them in the box under the category of thing to justify or be okay with the way we treat animals at times.
But that's the problem, we do it the wrong way around.
Right.
You know, if we wouldn't put them in a box, if we would treat them better, then we wouldn't do those things.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a cycle. So how did this start for you? Like, how did you begin to be able to communicate with animals?
Well, as far as I can think back, so you know, you're talking, when I saw an animal, I just knew what the animal was thinking, what the animal was feeling. I didn't know that you can talk with animals because nobody else did it. I had a very close connection with animals. I had a pretty hard childhood. Like, both of my parents were alcoholics and my mother was mentally abusive. So literally the only friends I had were animals, right? So I was very close to them.
Okay, so you went to them for
yes.
love
and I mean, I
connection.
wasn't even allowed to have an animal. But you know, all the animals I saw on TV or outside, you know, they were just my friends. And also because of the way I grew up, my mother being mentally abusive, I had to, like, if I was at home or at school, if I was at school or kindergarten, when I came home and something happened at home while I was gone, I was punished for it. So basically when I came home, I had to know what my mother was thinking, so I knew how to act and behave.
Right.
So I had to have this sensitivity, you know, so I developed
to kind of read your
right.
own mom.
And again, animals were my friends. They were, you know, so that was just so normal for me. So even when I was very small and I saw an animal and I knew that the animal was mistreated, I couldn't understand how people could do that, because how could they mistreat an animal when the animal was screaming and crying? How could you do that?
Right.
And I didn't understand that, because I thought everybody was experiencing the same thing, just like I did. It's like you are breathing, you're not thinking about it, you're just doing it. Everybody else is doing it, right? It's so normal for you.
Right.
And the same with me. That was just normal for me to hear the animals.
Right. So as a child, you have this ability and you think everybody else is hearing the same thing.
Yes.
And then, but for whatever reason, you didn't disconnect with it like some children probably do. You were able to keep that gift.
I did disconnect for it for a couple of years.
Okay.
I was in my teens, and it was really hard on me because every time I saw an animal that wasn't treated well, and two, like for me, let's say a dog wasn't taken out at lunchtime and really needed to go to the bathroom, you know, for hours, was sitting there, like I felt that, you know, and that was horrible for me. So my sister was the only person I could talk to about that, because again, nobody else was talking about animals, and plus I was very, very shy because of my upbringing. And my sister said to me, Claudia, you're really wrecking yourself. You're getting sick. You have to stop doing that. And I believed her because she was older, and you know, and I looked up to her. So I literally tried to push it away and stopped listening. And when I did that, it felt to me like part of me was dying, like almost like death. And that went on for 1 or 2 years, and I really didn't like that. So I, you know, went back, opened up to it again.
And thank goodness you did. We'll pick up more when we come back from the break. Welcome back to Awakening Within. I have with me today Claudia Hehr, whose full-time profession is communicating with animals. Before the break, we were talking about how this gift to hear messages from animals came about, and now I've asked Claudia if she could do a reading on a pet, and most specifically, my pet. We have a farm dog, Sheba, and because this is the city, I didn't think I could transport Sheba here, but you reassured me that you do distance readings, that you don't actually have to physically be with the animal, which again I find remarkable. That you can just do it either through a picture or even just talking to a pet owner over the phone, am I right?
Yes. It's actually interesting. Most of my sessions are done over the phone because, you know, I have clients all around the world. And a lot of people think, how can that be? But if you think about 150 years ago, if you would have told somebody, you know, there's a little box, you pick up this thing, you talk in, and the person in the next village can hear you.
Right.
They would have said, What's that? Oh no.
How is that possible?
Right. In cell phones, I mean, they're not even plugged in. So it's the same thing. So when I connect with an animal, I have to know who. So I either get a picture, either the animal is there, or somebody sends me a picture or a description. It's kind of like when you pick up your phone, you punch in some numbers,
right.
and then you get the person you want to talk with. And
right.
that's how I connect with them.
Right. It's remarkable, really. I mean, it's like technology is catching up to this sort of underlying natural ability for us to communicate that has always been there.
But if you think about it, sometimes, let's say, I mean, you have a family, right? You have a daughter, and let's say you're somewhere, and all of a sudden you have this really weird feeling, there's something wrong with my daughter. Right. How do you know?
Or I need to call home.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That is telepathy. Because in that moment you were totally open and your daughter thought about you and you picked it up. That is telepathy. It happens so many times.
Right.
People do it all the time, but they don't know it.
Right.
Or the telephone rings and without looking at call display, how do you know it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister?
Right.
This is telepathy.
Right.
So that's how it works. So
great. So a lot of us are experiencing it all the time and we just don't even realize it.
Exactly, because they've never been taught. And with telepathy, it happens like this.
Right.
It doesn't take, it's not like a telephone that you have to dial, it has to ring, you have to pick it up. Right. Telepathy is there.
It's instant.
And there's no long distance.
Great. Okay, so we have a dog, Sheba, and that we got just a year ago. And so I'm going to give you the picture of Sheba. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so usually, you know, I ask some questions, like, for example, how old is Sheba?
Right. She just turned a year. Yeah, about 14 months.
Okay, and how long has she been with you?
Since she was 6 weeks.
Okay, she's telling me that she does have some security issues. Okay. Like she feels insecure, and she feels she would love to have a companion, one or two more companions, dogs. Her own size or a little bit smaller, but not tiny, tiny.
Right.
And that just would make her feel better because, again, a lot of insecurity. She's also worried when you leave the house. Like, what's going to happen to me? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Okay.
So those are some real concerns about her. And you can help her with that very, very easily. For example, there's a lot of misunderstandings or misknowledge about animals. And that's actually also one of my goals, to correct that, because what we know about animals is quite often so far from the truth than what actually is really happening. Or so, for example, with Sheba, what you can do is tell her things when you go out, like tell her where you go, what you do, what time you will be back. And so one of the misconceptions that animals don't know time, but yes, they do. So if you tell your dog companion, your cat companion, you're back at 3, and you're not back at 3, they get worried. Like, because animals know time. Again, there's so many things that we think about animals which are absolutely not true. And the reason is because when we see an animal, we assume things. But how many people have actually asked the animal what is actually going on? It's like a man writing a book about women. Or you writing a book about the Amazon. You've never been in the Amazon and you live in New York. How do you know? Right. You don't know. You just assume or what you read, and that's the same with animals. So animals know time. So if you would tell her those things, it would really, really help her in security.
So before we leave, just reassuring her.
Yes.
Where we're going and when we'll be back.
Yeah, so you basically would say things like, okay, I'm going out to run some errands. I'm going to the post office, the dry cleaner, and the bank.
Right.
I will be back around 2, or I'll be back at 2, or between 2 and 2:30, and then be back. And so just while I'm gone, just have a rest, listen to the music, play with your toys.
Right.
Those kind of things.
Right. It's funny because just recently I've been telling my daughter, who's one of my children is quite close to her, and I've been encouraging her to do just that, like say, I'm going to school now and when you'll be back.
Fantastic.
Because I do sense there's a lot of anxiety when they go to walk out to get the bus, you know, that she's...
Yeah, she's really worried about, like, are they coming back? Are you coming back? What's going to happen to me? She's very worried about her future, that she might be forgotten. So what happened to her when you got her?
We got her from another farmer who, they have 2 dogs they breed, and then we just, when she was old enough to be picked up, we went and got her from the farm.
I think what happened with her was that she was too young.
Okay.
I mean, just because the dog is 6 weeks or 8 weeks doesn't mean, I mean, it's like us, you know, some mature, like people mature sooner rather than later, or younger than, or older. And that's the same with animals. We think just because they're 8 weeks old, we can separate them, or they're 6 weeks old.
It might have been 8 weeks, yeah, I'm not sure which, but
But
either way.
that's not true. Like I said, that's the other thing. Animals are all different, right? Like us. Not every dog is the same. They have different worries, different feelings, different whatever. So we also have to see them as individuals.
Right.
So I think she was just not old enough. She just wasn't ready to go. Yeah.
Right.
She had the age, but she wasn't ready to go emotionally.
Anything else you're picking up from what she might be trying to tell us, or what we should know?
Again, the security is the most important part. Avoid lying to your dog, to your animal companion. A lot of people do. They say, I'll be right back, because they've been told by the trainer to do that, and then they're gone for 2 hours. That's a flat out lie. If you say, I'll be right back, it's literally taking out the trash. So if it's 2 hours, then tell them 2 hours. The more you are, you know, it's like the guy who went to go get some cigarettes, and 2 years later he still wasn't there. Right?
Yeah.
So the more you tell your animal companions, the more you are
Building
tell them
trust.
the truth. Exactly, because then they know what you say is really going to happen.
Okay.
And then you can help with separation anxiety and all of that kind of stuff.
Great, thank you. And I promise we will be back just momentarily after this commercial break. If you're just joining us now, I'm in a fascinating conversation with animal communicator Claudia Hehr. She assists anyone who is trying to interact or understand an animal. It could be a pet or an animal in the wild. She just did a reading on my dog Sheba, which was extremely helpful and informative for me. Claudia, I find this incredible. So, anything else that you need to tell me about Sheba?
There's two things she told me. One is she has a little bit of a funny tooth on the back.
Okay.
It was her left.
Okay.
Could be, I don't know, she just says it feels a little bit funny, so you might want to check that out. Could be just something there, like maybe some...
Something caught, or...
Yeah,
okay.
or just a little bit plaque or something. And the other thing she says, that her neck is a little bit sore.
Okay.
Those two things she asked me to tell you as well.
And sore as in, like, she wants us to know that, do something about it, or...
Yeah, you could maybe go to an animal chiropractor and have it adjusted or something, just to make sure everything is nice in alignment. But, you know, it's just a little bit here on this side where she feels a little uncomfortable.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that as well. So what would you say, out of all your clientele, you know, what's the biggest demand or need when people seek you out?
It's usually I'm the last one to go to. Everybody, they tried out everything. They tried the trainer, they tried this, and nothing worked.
Right.
And then, well, let's try you, because, you know.
Yeah, because we're desperate and we need some help. Yeah.
And I think it would be a good idea if we communicate with our animal companions, even if there is not a problem, so problems don't arise.
Okay.
But a lot of people, they are scared to talk to animal companions because they are worried about something they did maybe 2 years ago. You know, the animal is still mad with them, or they're worried that their best friend all of a sudden tells something they don't like. We're all the same, yes, we're all souls in a physical body, but animals are not like us this way. So they wouldn't say, remember 2 years ago when you told me I shouldn't do it? They are not doing that.
They're not good at holding grudges.
But it's just a wonderful idea. I mean, you have this incredible being living with you. You know, you share your life with them, and to find out what they need, because mostly it's about us. What do we need? What the animals can do for us? And I say it's not just what the animal can do for us. We should also ask what we can do for the animals.
Right.
So if we can make their life better for whatever reasons, it could be that maybe the bed is in the wrong in the wrong part of the house, or this or that. You know, it could be little things, or just sharing things, telling our animal companion what's going to happen, because it affects them too. So are we moving? Are we getting separated? Are we expecting a baby? Are we, who knows? You know, is the plumber coming in next week all of a sudden into the house, and they're shy about it or worried about it? So share, tell your animal companions, and it will really make a big difference, because quite often people, they just, like, they share their life. It's like having a roommate. But once you start communicating with the animal, you're really connecting. and then all of a sudden you have a relationship.
Right.
And it's a wonderful thing to do.
So really, I mean, anytime you're struggling with, unwanted, disruptive, or, behavior from your pet in particular, a lot of times we want to run to, the trainer to help, obedience school or something like that. But a lot of that can just be dealt with listening to what your animal's trying to tell you.
Yes, because the reason is so animals have to learn how to live in this human world. So, I mean, if you get a puppy, of course the puppy will chew because that's what they do. It's like little babies. They put everything in their mouth too, right? So they have to learn certain things, yes. But quite often, behavior issues or acting out, that's literally an outcry for help because animals, they talk to us all the time. But most people, they can't hear them. Right. So they don't hear what the animals have to say. So the animal tries and tries and tries, and then one time the animal says, okay, I tried that, didn't work, what could I do? Maybe if I rip something. Or cats, for example. Number one reason that cats get euthanized is because they don't use the litter box.
Right.
But a cat, again, tries to tell you nothing works, so they said, well, maybe if I don't get a litter box, I get attention. Yes, they do, but unfortunately it's the wrong attention. So usually misbehaving is literally just an outcry for help. And when we talk with them, and it's not to tell our animal companions to do something or not to do it, it's to find out why are you doing this? Because once we know why they do that, then we can do something about it. And that's also why dog training so often fails. Because, like problem A is put in this box, problem B in this, problem C in this, and this is how dealt with. But that might not be the reason. For example, fear. There's a million different types of fears. You could be afraid of losing your job. You could be afraid of your husband leaving you. You could be afraid of losing your money. Right. So or losing your health. So each one you would deal different with, right? So the same with fear. If an animal has fear, you have to find out what is the fear, so that you can deal with the right way. The fear with the right. You can deal with the right way.
Right.
So when we talk with our animal companions, it's to find out what's going through their mind, their side of the story, hear their perspective. Once we know that, then it's so much easier to deal with that.
Right. So for instance, another thing our dog does a lot is just bark crazy when somebody comes in.
Right.
And initially that's great. I like that she lets us know if someone has has driven in, but I want her to be able to stop once we say, this person's acceptable, it's okay, but she tends to keep going and keep going.
So when you just told me that, I got in touch with her, and she says she barks so much because, again, of her insecurity, and she's worried, who is this person, what does the person do, is the person going to take me away? You came and took her away from her mom. So maybe there's a person coming, taking her away from you now.
Okay.
So one of the reasons she barks is because of fear.
So what do we do?
So what I would do, if you know that somebody's coming, I would tell her before, and I would say, again, the plumber is coming. He's coming between 8 and 12, but I'll be here. We let him in, and I trust him. He's a good guy. I know him. Or Susan and George are coming tomorrow night for dinner, and tell her about it. Tell her what's going on, and then if she barks, you say, okay, thanks. I appreciate you showing me somebody came, but now please be quiet. Mm-hmm. I know the people that are coming, I trust them. And if there's a stranger, then of course don't say that because, it's not true.
Right.
So you acknowledge that she's barking and you're thanking her for that, and then you also acknowledge why she's barking because she's scared, and that's why you say, but it always has to be the truth. So again, if it's your friend Susan and George, you can say, okay, I know them, I trust them, so you can just relax. They come in, they're staying for dinner, and just, enjoy their friendship as well. They're our friends and they're your friends.
Right. And then hope over time, if I keep repeating this, that she'll learn to trust me.
Exactly.
When I share the story. It's not going to likely change overnight.
No, because again, think about it, she has insecurity issues. So they're not changing from today till tomorrow. It's like with people.
Right.
But the more you work on it, the more you make her feel better, the more you show her that, again, what you say is the truth, the more she can relax because she knows what you're saying is the truth.
Right.
And then it will get better and better and better.
Right, and that insecurity could likely come with, I know there's definitely several, I've got 4 kids, there's 6 of us all together in the house, and some of us definitely struggled with the transition of having the dog in the house, and she likely picked up on our anxiety over having her in the house, which would explain insecurity.
Also, she was taken away from her mom too early, even though she had the age. Again, Some are ready, some are not. It's an individual thing, like us. I mean, we allow humans to be so individual, right? But for animals, every kitten has to go at 6 or 8 weeks. Every puppy has to go at 2 months or 3 months. But no, they are not.
So.
Everybody is different, and so we have to see the individuality
and pets
as
are
well.
different too. Yeah, right. Thank you so much, Claudia. This has just been really insightful. I feel I'm ready to go back to Shiva and be a much better pet owner. Thanks to you, and I know that my daughter in particular will appreciate that. People can get in touch with you. Your website is?
My name, ClaudiaHehr.com, so ClaudiaHehr.com.
.com, and they can get a hold of you,
Yes.
and you can help bring some peace into some homes, I'm sure. And thank you for joining us. And if you want more information about Claudia as well, you can pick up her book, If Only Animals Could Talk. And we're done talking for today. We hope this has been helpful. And remember, animals can communicate too.